The Nigerian police leadership says the force is adequately prepared to take on its mandate of maintaining security in volatile states of the Federation. Again, the Nigerian government's fight against terrorism seems to have lost another critical component with the withdrawal of Chadian troops from the multinational joint regional effort between Nigeria and our immediate neighbors on the northeastern reaches of the country. We'll be discussing all of the issues involved this morning with Dr. Kabir Adamu, a security professional and chief executive of Beacon Consulting Nigeria. We will also be speaking with Dr. Abiodun Adeniyi, an associate professor of mass communication at Bayes University, Abuja, Federal Capital Territory. We'll be looking at the unfolding conflict in the Middle East between the United States and Iran, and how all of that will likely affect Africa in the context of global geopolitics.
We shall be exploring the issue of tourism in Lagos with Shulamide Adebolu, the Lagos State Commissioner for Tourism, Arts and Culture. The conversation will try to bring to light the various tourist activities in the state during the season of festivities and the economic potential of tourism in Lagos. Finally on the show, we shall be talking to Chief Gani Adams, a Yoruba traditional chief, whose title confers on him the responsibility of maintaining the peace and security of his people, the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of Yoruba land. We'll be trying to find out from him what he thinks about the new security operation being put together by leaders in the southwest region called Amotekun.
And of course, we'll also be catching up on news-making headlines across the globe, as well as reviewing the newspapers with Arise News analyst Emmanuel Ifeni. It's going to be all of that and a whole lot more today on The Morning Show.
Welcome back to The Morning Show here on Arise News. It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. Eben Barlow, chairman of Specialized Tasks, Training, Equipment and Protection International, STTEP, a private army, has accused the U.S. of influencing President Muhammadu Buhari to terminate a contract to rescue the Chibok Girls. Speaking in an interview with Al Jazeera, Barlow said Buhari did not have any choice but to end the contract because he came under pressure from the U.S., which he claims sponsored Buhari's campaign in 2015. Barlow said his army was initially engaged to rescue the Chibok Girls, but that was later changed to combating Boko Haram. Let's hear it.
Our initial aim was not Boko Haram per se, but it was to rescue the Chibok Girls. They were the girls that had been kidnapped, and where the Western response was #SaveTheGirls. That type of nonsense does not save girls. Unfortunately, these girls became victims of a situation where the security had broken down in a specific area. They were kidnapped, and that was the first mission, rescue the Chibok Girls. We then did a selection process of the Nigerian soldiers. The soldiers were retained after the selection process, were then trained in a very specific way to conduct a hostage rescue operation. And that requires a very specific type of person. However, approximately 5 or 6 weeks into the training of the hostage rescue team, we were asked to change our mission. And that mission was to go to a town called Maiduguri in northeast Nigeria that had come under severe threat of Boko Haram. We then rapidly had to transition what we were doing and suddenly train a very offensive force with a minimum of equipment, and we rushed to Maiduguri. The operation was in 3 phases. The first phase was to actually cut a dividing line across northeastern Nigeria and isolate Boko Haram into 2 defined areas, and then mop up one area in the south was the start, and after that was done, mop up in the north. The division would follow behind, occupied terrain. We would train the division in situ in defensive positions, etc., but we were never allowed to execute the entire operation. So in 1 month, we took back terrain larger than Belgium from Boko Haram. We were not allowed to finish because it came at a time when governments were in the process of changing. I think President Jonathan's government possibly saw the entire Boko Haram contract, if we call it that, almost as a last gasp in order to regain popularity. The incoming president, President Buhari, was heavily supported by a foreign government, and one of the first missions was to terminate our contract.
Could you name that foreign government?
Yes, we were told it was the United States, and they had actually funded President Buhari's campaign. The campaign manager for President Buhari came from the US. And I'm not saying that the United States is bad. I understand foreign interests, but I would have thought that a threat such as Boko Haram on the integrity of the state of Nigeria ought to be actually a priority. It wasn't.
How much did you charge the Nigerian government?
Well, first of all, we didn't charge the Nigerian government. And I think here that is a question the Nigerian government can answer. We were one subcontractor. So in other words, the Nigerian government appointed a contractor, and we contracted to that contractor as their subcontractor. So I think that's all I'll say. If you're really interested in the figures, that's for the Nigerian government to discuss.
This is quite the bombshell on several levels. I mean, you'll recall that former President Goodluck Jonathan, in his book Transition Hours, levied quite serious allegations against former President Barack Obama, his Secretary of State John Kerry, and David Cameron. He effectively felt that he was being sabotaged by these people. You'll recall that David Cameron also took a swipe at former President Jonathan in his book, For the Record, saying JEJ was sleeping at the wheel and never sought British help, which former President Jonathan came out to deny and said that he actually wrote letters, and that the reason why they're against him was because he stands against gay marriage and LGBTQ rights, which at the time seemed really far-fetched, that, come on, surely not. But then you now have this kind of an incendiary interview being given, and you have to wonder, really, what is the interest of these foreign powers in our country, and this level of meddling, and the lives that have been put at risk because of what? Playing of politics.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure we'll be hearing some denials from Garba Shehu and Femi Adesina in, no time at all, because this is a huge allegation that the U.S. funded Buhari's campaign. Well,
the gentleman, Amen Barlow, helps to confirm a number of things. He runs a mercenary operation, a private army that is called Executive Outcomes. And now in that interview that he granted Al Jazeera, he's confirming that indeed Nigeria, in trying to address the threat of Boko Haram and the abduction of, the Chibok Girls, engage the services of mercenaries to assist in what is termed hostage rescue mission. But what is very disturbing is that he said, one, that President Jonathan was so interested in the contract in order to shore up his popularity. But that in 2015, as soon as the Buhari administration came on board, the Buhari administration stopped the operation. You recall that, 57 of the Chibok girls, 276 of them, and 76 of them in total, 52 of them managed to escape. The Buhari administration was able to negotiate the release of 107. But as we speak, we still have about 112 of the girls still in captivity. One would have expected that ordinarily, the Buhari administration will continue with that rescue. But what he is doing here is that he's accusing the Buhari administration of refusing to continue with the rescue operation because the Americans advised our president not to do so. The more damning revelation is his allegation, it's an allegation that the United States sponsored President Buhari's campaign in 2015. These are very serious allegations. But it will be interesting to see the response from the American embassy. The story says the U.S. embassy mission was contacted, but they've not said anything on it. The Nigerian authorities have also not responded. We probably will not get any response because of the sensitive nature of the subject, because it points in the direction of interference in Nigerian affairs, or to use your word, meddlesomeness in Nigerian affairs by, foreign interests, to the extent of even, financing election in Nigeria. So if that allegation is true, then it raises very serious issues about campaign finance. Yeah. Are the same Americans who complain about Russian interference, who does, routinely interfere in the campaign finance of, an individual in Nigeria, particularly presidential politics in Nigeria. Let us hope that that is not true. But of course, I do not expect that anybody will come forward and say Ibn Balo is saying the truth or that the allegations can be, established.
You know, it's extremely worrying, but I don't think this is even new news. And I think this is one of several accounts that can even be given on this particular topic, because I have even had a first-hand witness with another subcontractor who was actually brought forward with his own private security company when the Chibok Girls went missing, and he also gave a very similar account, right? So this is something that needs to be investigated, and this is something that needs to be looked into, because now if there are more accounts, and this is actually something with a lot of depth, then the government they've gone really deep here. They have gone really deep. And the meddling, that doesn't make it any better in any way whatsoever. This is an extremely worrying report.
It is. At this point, we'll take a short break and we'll be back with more news headlines. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still on news headlines. Barely 24 hours after Nigeria's Police Inspector General issued a nationwide red alert on possible massive public disturbances following the killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, the United States has cautioned Americans to reconsider traveling to or across Nigeria. The U.S. Embassy in Nigeria, in a statement on its website, advised American citizens to review their personal security measures. Although it does not have a specific security threat information, it asked U.S. nationals in Nigeria to stay alert in public places, including schools, hospitals, government facilities, places of worship, tourist locations, and transportation hubs. The security advisory also asked them to review and also travel routes and times to reduce time and place predictability. Well, this is not surprising, I imagine. That same travel advisory has gone out in, obviously, Iran, Iraq, Israel, Palestine, and other countries like Morocco, Turkey, Dubai, and now Nigeria. It's just one of the many ways that we're going to see repercussions as a result of the killing of Soleimani. But yes, I imagine because there's a huge worry, which we'll get to in the next story, with regards to Iranian support in Nigeria.
Well, two things. One, the United States often issues a travel advisory, given the level of its engagement with the rest of the world and the escalation of threat in different parts of the world. The travel advisory that has been issued for Nigeria is level 1, which is blue. That means just take simple precautions. But in some other parts of the world, we have level 2, which is yellow, which means take more caution. Then you have level 3, which says, look, reconsider your travel. And then you have level 4, which is red, which says do not travel at all. And there are at least about 16 countries on the list compiled by the Americans, including Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Central African Republic, Venezuela, Yemen, and so on. So you have, what they've done now is to issue this travel advisory for Nigeria. And that travel advisory for Nigeria, I think, is at level 1, level blue. But if there is any threat to American interest, then, of course, it could go to a higher level. And, the Islamic movement of Nigeria, you understand, they are backed by Iranians. Yes. Because of that, anytime there is a problem with the Shiites movement in Nigeria, you find Iran protesting. So it's, expected that the Islamic movement of Nigeria, which is backed by the Shiites in Iran, will go out and protest. But I think the security agencies should also see that as an opportunity to be on alert and to monitor the movement closely, so that in the event of any threat, we do not begin to suffer in Nigeria for something that is happening thousands of miles away, because after all, after the killing of al-Baghdadi, it was 10 Christians from Nigeria. They were killed by Israel. So the security agencies should take the necessary precaution and not just assume that, this is between U.S. and Iran alone.
It definitely isn't. I mean, globalization, this is a problem that's affecting us all now. So I just add to that yes, travel advisories right now are probably necessry. So yes, over to Aaron. Good morning.
Good morning.
Aaron is here to give us his news, sports news.
Okay, yes, we do, and not as critical as what we've been discussing with some of the things here, but nevertheless, racism has still been front and center. We've been discussing about this, and it's rather unfortunate the ton of events that have been happening in England. And let's tell you that Tottenham Hotspur have insisted that they fully support Antonio Rudiger's action after he was being allegedly racially abused, even though the club and the police have closed the investigation. The Blues skipper, Cesar Spoleta, told referee Anthony Taylor about this incident, and the Spurs and the cops launched instantly, and they set about trying to identify the culprit. However, they have not announced their investigation, have been unable to produce any kind of evidence. A sports statement reads, the club and the Metropolitan Police have now exhausted all avenues of investigation following the reported incident at our home fixture against Chelsea on the 22nd of December. We carried out extensive reviews of CCTV images and footages, working with professional lip readers. All materials and reports have now also been reviewed by the police, who have carried out their own investigation. So as it is right now, they are saying that this investigation is closed, and they've exhausted every avenue to try to find out and fish out these culprits to no avail. And right now,
Spurs aren't closing it.
What is it?
Spurs don't want to close it, though, do they?
No, they have. Spurs have actually said that the police have closed the investigation, but they will be hoping that in the future, if any other evidence comes to light, they might reopen the investigation. But for now, the investigation is closed. So the question is, although the sports team are trying to say that they are standing beside Anthony Rudiger, because if they say no one was found with the kind of technology we have today, CCTVs, match footages, and the rest of them, and one culprit could not be found, that means Anthony Rudiger was actually lying. So that's, is it that, it's almost like the devil and the deep blue sea right now.
The report did not go as far as saying that.
No, they could not say that. They could not say that. But if they said evidences were not found, that means the player probably might have just
Or it means evidences
They've
weren't
also
found.
left it open to say that should any evidence be made available, or should they find any evidence, they will return to the matter. But I think what is important is not even in the details. It's in the significance of the effort. The fact that the authorities in England, the football authorities, are strongly opposed to racism, any kind of monkey chants in the, at a match venue, and that both the authorities and the clubs are making very serious effort to make sure that where this can be established, whoever is involved is sanctioned. The police carried out their own independent investigation. Tottenham Spurs, also carried out their own investigation, and they both arrived at the same conclusion. And you recall that during the match on December 22, they made 3 different announcements after Antonio Rudiger complained. And if we continue to see this level of commitment from clubs and the football authorities, I think in the long run, maybe the fans, the notorious fans, who are, committed to racist slurs, during matches, will change their tactics.
We are hoping so, because some people try to see this differently, as some others have gone out and tabled out several instances where they expected the English FA to have done better, which they didn't, because they said on the 21st of September, an incident happened in the Hartlepool game. On the 7th of December, one particular player, Fred, the Brazilian Fred, was racially, had racial chants
Those cases
against
reported.
him. Yeah,
because in Rudiger's case, there was a specific report. And it was on the basis of that they carried out the investigation.
No, why not? No, but some are saying, or some organizations like Kick It Out and the rest of them, that it doesn't have to be even formally reported. If the players say that they have been racially abused, like the case of Fred in the Manchester City game against Manchester United, the derby, then major action should be taken. And the fact that this particular incident has not reached a very, very convincing conclusion.
Yeah, but you get a lot of cases like that where the police do have to shut off cases because they can't find enough hard-reaching evidence, but it doesn't necessarily suggest that that person is lying. All it really says is that enough evidence hasn't been found. I don't know. I think it's just the narrative of the way it's put, because I don't really think that this suggests that, he was just lying,
Yeah, I think, as I said earlier, the main message is no to racism in sports.
Yeah.
Whether it's football or it's golf, That's the bottom line.
We are hoping.
Tonton's words.
All right, a lot is still expected from the English FA and from the fans who watch the beautiful game, ultimately. And let's move on to some good news. Nigeria will hopefully today be celebrated heavily as the stars Aziz Oshola, Victor Osimhen, and Samuel Chukwueze are among the shortlist of players to be honored tonight at the 2019 CAF Award ceremony in Egypt. And as it stands right now, a lot of people are expecting Aziz Oshola to likely win her 4th award. She's won it twice, three times before. So let's see if that would actually hold sway for her. And also, even though the list Nigerian players are actually missing for the male category, for the best players in Africa, but for the women and the young players, Nigeria will be heavily represented today, and we are hoping that at least...
Chukwueze is how old? He's like 18, no? Or 20? How old is he?
Who?
Chukwueze. He's really young.
18.
Yeah.
So he's turning heads in Africa and around the world. So we're hoping that one day he would actually metamorphose into a great star that can actually win this award. Because Nigeria has been missing from this big gong for a very, very, very long time. And other Africans have caught up with Nigeria and have overtaken Nigeria as to best players in the world.
Well, if Asisat Oshoala wins, as we expect,
yes,
she'll be repeating the feat of, is it Perpetua Nkocha?
Yes.
Who had won, the female player of the year about four times.
Four times, yes.
And then, of course, we're also hoping that the Super Falcons, who are clearly the favorites, will also be the female
team of the
year for Africa. But what do you think of the short list of the African Player of the Year between Mahrez, Sadio Mane, and Mohamed Salah? It's your favorite.
It's clear.
Mane.
She just mentioned it. Maybe I could have read it. Sadio Mane is the man that ticks all the box. Although, if the point is this, a lot of criticism goes with this kind of awards because the criteria are not level. This year it oscillates, this year it vacillates. So you get to see these things happen. And because in time past, what Riyad Mahrez had done for Algeria, winning the Nations Cup and helping Manchester City win 3 titles.
And helping to get Nigeria out of the tournament.
Exactly,
yes.
Thank you. This is what I'm saying.
That's why you don't want to support Mahrez.
That's why I don't want to support him. I haven't forgiven him.
So that would have even given him the gong in time past, but certainly that will not give him the gong this year. Sadio Mane has been spectacular, not for country, but for club side.
Yeah.
So that the question is...
Liverpool.
Yes,
yeah.
So the question now is, when you play for your country, you're not spectacular, but you are so spectacular, untouchable, literally, when you play for your club side. Is that enough to give you the award? But individually, by statistics, Sadio Mane
it's enough
takes
to give him the award, please.
And you will get the award. For the very first time now, we should know, for the very first time in a long time.
What if he goes to Mohamed Salah?
No, thank you. I don't like Salah.
An excellent year.
He's a great player, but I just don't like him.
They call him the Egyptian, they call him the Arabian Lionel Messi. Let's see. But now it's a long shot. It's a long shot. It's going to be Sadio Mane, Riyad Mahrez, and Mohamed Salah.
We'll see what happens tonight in Egypt.
We'll be bringing the results tomorrow
to give out the award.